Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya yato Anvayaditaratascha Artheshu Abhigyaswarat Tene Brahmahridaya Adikavaye Muhyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Amrisha Dhamna Swena Sada Nirastakohakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Nigamakalpataror Galitam Phalam Shukamukadam Amrutadrava Sanyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. We now enter the 9th chapter of the 8th Skandha of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are in the middle of the churning of the ocean of milk story. We saw how the story so far, the Mount Mandara was brought along with Vasuki as the churning rod and churning rope. Then the churning happened with great enthusiasm. And first, contrary to what they expected as nectar coming out, what they got was poison. So they went to Lord Shiva and took refuge in him. And Lord Shiva, out of his infinite compassion and grace, consumed the whole poison, Halahala Visham. Thus he became Nilakantha, with the throat becoming blue. Then we saw in the last chapter that they continued with the churning, and many wonderful things came, many opulences such as the cow of plenty, the divine horse, divine elephant, and finally Mother Lakshmi came and she took the Supreme Being as her eternal consort. And after that, what they were all waiting for, the nectar has come. Dhanvantri, a partial manifestation of the Lord, comes out with the nectar, and the nectar was immediately snatched by the demons and they ran with it. So the Devatas were all dejected because they were playing very fair. They thought we will all bring the nectar out and share it, but the demons, showing the demoniac tendency, as soon as the nectar came, they didn't care for the Devas who were also part of the churning. They took and ran with it, and therefore they appealed to the Supreme Being, took shelter in him, surrendered to him, and he said, "Don't worry, I shall take care." And therefore, Bhagavan takes the form of Mohini Avatar. So this is the other glorious, bewildering avatar of the Lord, a very short avatar and yet very famous. He takes the form of the most beautiful woman. Mohini literally means she who deludes. So Moha is delusion, Mohini means she who deludes. So he takes the form of a woman who deludes everyone, most beautiful, looking like a blue lotus with most wonderful features and beautiful flowers and jewels adorning her, and wearing a white, spotless white cloth. So she is looking so charming. And now Shuka Brahma Rishi continues with the 9th chapter. He says, having seen her, the Asuras now almost forgot about the jar of nectar. So the Asuras, the demons, represent all the demoniac qualities, and the strongest of them is, of course, lust. And therefore, when they see the beauty, the bewitching beauty of Mohini, they have been so far fighting already. They, having run away with the nectar, they were fighting on who's going to consume first. They said, I will take it first, I'll take it first. Thereby, with their selfishness, they are not able to even decide who's going to have first. When this is going on, Mohini walks towards them, and seeing her, they run up to her. They almost forget about the jar, and they say, oh, what marvelous beauty, what splendor. They say, aho rupam, aho dhama, aho asya navambayah. So they say, how beautiful she looks, how wonderful you are looking. Tell us who you are. They are completely infatuated, and the delusion, the word Mohini means one who deludes, and they completely are deluded now. So they say, who are you? Where do you come from? Whose daughter are you? And what is your intention? You look so divine and so beautiful. You look like you have come only for our sake. Who has sent you here? You are the one who can bring peace to us. Then they remember that they have this jar they are fighting over. So they instantly, because of their infatuation, trust her to be the fair judge of how to distribute. So they say, oh, beautiful lady, you are the one who can resolve this conflict among us, because we are all contending for a common object, and therefore we have developed enmity. We are all actually brothers, because as we know, they are all sons of sage Kashyapa and Diti, and therefore they say we are all brothers, we are all friends, and yet, and also we all work together, we all work engaged in hard work together to get this nectar out. They of course forget the fact that the Devas were also equally engaged and they are also their cousins, but because of their selfishness they ignored that. But now because of the same selfishness, even among them they are not able to decide who will take. So they say we are not able to figure out who can take this in which order, and we have become enemies. That is, there is enmity among us now already. So please divide this price equally, equitably, whatever you feel is the right way. And thus, being urged by the demons, the Lord, who is in the form of Mohini, the most bewildering form he has assumed through his Maya, he laughed gently and spoke in a very charming way. Again, that will completely make them even more infatuated, because he says very counterintuitively, how do you trust me? Because I am just a woman who has just come now, and it is always said that one should not trust a woman who is looking very beautiful, and yet how come you are trusting me? So when she asks this question counterintuitively, instead of actually waking up, so the beauty of this is the Lord is giving them a chance just to see how strong the demoniac tendencies are, to demonstrate how powerful lust is and how powerful the demoniac tendencies are, that even if one warns them, they are not ready to listen. In fact, they think it's a big joke. They all laugh when the beautiful Mohini says that, how do you trust me? I've just come, and it is said that one should not trust a beautiful looking woman. They all laugh and say, ha ha, and they all share a laugh, and they think this is a very nice joke said by the beautiful woman. And so, no, 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 they say, you are, of course, the most appropriate. And so they entrusted the jar to her. So here there is an important lesson, that the bewildering nature of Maya is that even if we know that it is delusion, we willingly sometimes step into it. So one of the classic examples of this, which has been also proven, is of course flattery. So if even knowing that flattery is going to make us stoke our ego, if someone tells us that I'm going to flatter you, and then they go ahead and flatter us, we still fall for it, because that is the nature of ego, that even despite being warned by the very same person who's going to flatter us, and yet if he flatters us, we fall for it. And here similarly, the Lord, who is the one who has come as Mohini, the most beautiful, charming woman, and who wants that don't fall for a beautiful woman, despite that, they take it as a joke and they actually say, no, 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 you are the one who can do this. So they entrust the jar to her. So now the Lord, of course, smiles gently in this form of Mohini, and having taken possession of the jar, so he says, so be it then. If you then accept that I will do it equitably, then you have to listen to me and I will divide it appropriately among all of you. So they all accept to that. And then the Lord says, we will do it tomorrow, because it has to be done appropriately. So you have to all go and fast and take a bath, and then we should have a proper sacrificial fire, yajna, and then we should gift the various gifts that have come already, that they should be gifted to the right people, because what we are getting here is nectar, which gives immortality. So to honor it, we have to first be very pure. So the Lord says, go and take rest, have a fast, and come. So they all listen, because they are all so completely bewitched by her in this form, that they say fine. So they all go and fast, they take their bath, they create a sacrificial fire, they offer various gifts to the sages, to the seers, and so on. They conduct all the auspicious rites, the yajna, everything, and then they put on a new set of clothes, because they all want to come there so perfectly dressed, for two reasons. One is because they are getting the nectar, and the second, which is already more important to them is because they want to be the most impressive towards this most beautiful woman, Mohini. So they all come in new clothes and well dressed and well decorated. They wear ornaments. All these daityas, that is the demons, all come there and they squat on the floor in a big hall. So, meanwhile, the Lord has also told the Devas to come and sit on the other side, and they also do the same process. They have also fasted and they have also purified themselves, and then they are also sitting on the other side of the hall. So, everybody is sitting now in a line. On the one side are all the demigods, the Devas, on the other side are all the demons, and they are all facing the east, and the whole hall is looking so beautiful. It is scented with fragrant perfumes, and it has got flowers decorated, it's got lights everywhere. And in the middle of the hall, we can imagine this scene. It's like serving food, except that instead of food, what is being served is the nectar, the immortal nectar, which is in this jar. So the jar is in the hands of Mohini, the avatar of the Lord, and these devas and the daityas, that is the demigods and the demons, are all sitting in a line. All the devas on one side, then the demons on the other side, all of them facing the same direction, facing east, sitting on the floor. And Mohini is having the jar in her hand, and she is walking very gracefully among them. And of course, the demons are all completely by now lost in infatuation, and she is walking in a very graceful way, and she is dressed so beautifully, and looking at all her beauty and her glances. Even the devas are, of course, very happy to see this, but they know, whereas the demons are completely deluded. So that's the difference between demoniac and divine qualities represented by the demons and the devas. The devas are not deluded as the demons are. So, similarly, when we are rooted in our divine nature, then the most beautiful material attraction shall not delude us. But if we are lost in the ego, lost in the demoniac qualities of lust and greed and so on, then we get deluded, and therefore this form is so bewitching that they are all deluded. And of course, the Lord has decided that He shall not give any nectar to the demons, because it is the same as giving milk to serpents. And therefore, Lord Achyuta did not give any share to them. What He did was, after seating them in two separate rows, as we said, He walked in the middle, and then while He beguiled the demons with His smile and polite words and movements and so on, He walked to the other side and He started giving the nectar to the devas. And these demons did not even notice it, because they are also infatuated, that they did not even notice the actions of Mohini. And Mohini was coming this side, walking back and forth, back and forth. Whenever she was coming this side to the side of the demons, she was smiling, speaking very politely, and acting like she's about to serve, but she doesn't serve. She just acts in a very polite way, speaking. So this is what happens when this beautiful woman gives them attention. They are all completely infatuated. So we see this even now, when someone, especially looking very beautiful, gives attention, then that attention acts like a drug, and the other goals, the other intentions, why we are here, what we are here for, all of that is completely forgotten. And that's exactly what is happening here. She comes and talks to them very sweetly and asks about them and looks at them in a smiling way. And when this most beautiful woman does all that, they completely forget that she's not serving them any nectar. They are also smiling and they are lost in this. And then she gently walks to the other side and she is serving them the nectar. So this is what's going on. And the demons, of course, they keep quiet, because they have put complete trust in her. So even though they see her going back and forth and they don't know what she is doing, but they are so infatuated, and they have also given their word that they will go by whatever she does. Therefore, they're all keeping quietly and just waiting that she will start serving them the nectar. And yet, they are still waiting, and they are not even opening their mouth. They are not even having any doubt in them. But meanwhile, it is said there was just one demon called Swarbhanu who was alert, and he spotted what's going on. He spotted that this Mohini was walking to the other side. When she was on the other side, she's serving them nectar, and while she's on this side, she's only sweet talking without serving anything. So he notices it, so he gently slips out and he just sits among the devas, acting like a deva. And as soon as he sits there, as Mohini is serving the nectar in a row for all the devas, he gets a drop. But as he gets the drop, it is said that the Surya and Chandra, that is the Devatas representing sun and moon, point out that this is not a Deva, this is a demon who is in the disguise of a Deva, the Swarbhanu. So instantly, Mohini Avatar, she being the Supreme Lord, takes out the Sudarshan Chakra, the discus, and cuts off his head. But it is said that before the head is cut off, because a drop of nectar went into his mouth, he fell into two pieces, and that became Rahu and Ketu. So this is the story behind Rahu and Ketu. This demon Swarbhanu became two, Rahu and Ketu. And Rahu and Ketu, because they got a dip, drop of the nectar, they became immortal too, and therefore they were assigned the position of a virtual planet by Brahma. And that is why it is said that Rahu and Ketu, they do not have physical planetary position, but they have virtual position. And therefore every astrology chart, Jyotisha, Vedic astrology, always has, in addition to the planets, which is the sun, the moon, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and so on, they also have Rahu and Ketu. And these two are also present in, not only they are present in all astrological charts, it is also said that Rahu is very negative energy and Ketu is positive energy. It is perhaps, though Bhagavatam doesn't say why, it is perhaps that the body being chopped into two, the nectar came to one half and they didn't reach the other half, and therefore the portion that got the nectar became Ketu, and that is the auspicious one. The other one being demoniac is Rahu, and that is why it is said even now that every day there is a time for 90 minutes which is called Rahu Kal, when it is considered very inauspicious to do anything, and it changes every day from Monday through Sunday. Every day it has a different slot of 90 minutes. That's called Rahu Kal. And similarly, it is said during eclipses, lunar and solar eclipse, it is Rahu that actually covers the sun or the moon, respectively, for solar and lunar eclipses. So this is all the legend behind Rahu and how he affects the eclipses, and how he therefore has an inauspicious time every day of the week, and how he is part of the astrological charts along with Ketu. So all this is described very nicely, and it has its own deeper significance too. So having completed this story, then it is said that when all the nectar was thus served, so by this drama that went on, the Lord emptied the entire jar into the mouths of the devatas, the demigods, and the demons did not get anything. And so therefore it is said that even though the net of all this is, even though they were all at the same place, same time, having the same instruments, working for the same cause, and yet one got the reward and the other did not get any reward, because the one surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord and the other did not surrender. They were only interested in their own selfish desires, and they also got caught in infatuation. So Shuka Brahma Rishi says, Evam surasura ganaha samadesha kala hetu artha karma matayo api phale vikalpaha. So they had samadesha, same time, same place, desha, kala, time, hetu, the same instruments or the same means, which is the Mount Mandara and the serpent Vasuki, same artha, that is the same both materials like herbs and plants and so on, and also the same goal of getting the nectar, same karma, same activity. They were all both churning, and same mati, that is the same intent. Despite everything being the same, phale vikalpaha tatra amritam suraganaha palamanjasa apuryat pada pankaja raja shrayanana daityaha. So they took the devatas surrendered to the nectar of the lotus feet of the Lord. And because they surrendered to him, they did not first do the adharmic or the greedy way of snatching the nectar for themselves. They, once the nectar came, they didn't do anything. They were ready to share it, but it's the demons that snatched it away out of greed. And when they did so, they didn't go to fight. They actually surrendered to the Supreme Lord. And because they surrendered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, they got the nectar, whereas the demons were there at the same time, same place, same activity, everything same, but they didn't get a drop of the nectar. So this is again going to show symbolically how the intent, the activity, the time, place, everything may be the same, but if one acts out of a sense of surrender without any desire for the results, offering all the results to Bhagavan, and the other acts for the same, in the same project with the same purpose, for the same goal, but he is acting out of a desire to gratify himself for selfishness, then the results are completely different. The one who is working for selfish desire, he always is disappointed, because even if he gets it, he is not satisfied, and if he doesn't get it, he is very depressed. Whereas the one who offers every result to the Lord and is completely peaceful, knowing that whatever comes will be right, he is always happy. If he gets it, he is happy about it. If he doesn't get it, he takes it as the divine destiny and accepts it totally. So the inner attitude of surrender as opposed to selfish greed, it makes all the difference. Whatever the outer action is, it doesn't matter. So therefore, Shuka Brahmarishi concludes this chapter by saying, whatever is done by men, whether with their life, their wealth, their organs of action, speech or mind, that is kaya, vacha, mana, with respect to their body, with respect to their children, as long as all of that is done with the sense of separation, it is futile. It's such a beautiful verse. That's what the demons represent. So if anything is done with the sense of separation, that I am an individual, I am the body, I am the mind, and I need to gratify the body and the mind, and therefore my goal is to please this body, please this mind, please my family, and so on. This attitude of separation, it says pritaktvat. When there is the separation, pritaktva, pritak means to be separate. If it is separation, pritaktvat, whatever is done, that results in only futile results. Whereas he says that which is done with the same means, but with the recognition of the non-separate nature, that is apritaktvat. So taireva sadbhavati yat kriyate apritaktvat sarvasya tad bhavati moola nishechanam yat. So Shuka Brahmarishi beautifully concludes by saying, if one does an activity completely with no sense of separation, then that activity becomes fruitful, it gives the right result, just as watering the roots of a tree nourishes all its limbs. So it's a beautiful metaphor that comes again. The activity of the demon is like trying to nourish the separate limbs or trunk or branches or leaves of the tree. So they want to separately nourish, and it doesn't nourish the tree, it doesn't even nourish the very part of the tree that they are trying to nourish. Because if we simply pour water on a branch, it doesn't even help that branch, let alone the whole tree. So that's what is the attitude of the demons. By taking it for oneself is like pouring water on a separate branch or a separate flower or a leaf or whatever. Whereas the attitude of the divine is to simply water the root of the tree. If you water the root of the tree, then the whole tree is nourished. And that is to surrender to the Supreme Lord. So, this is the essence of this chapter, this whole pastime of Mohini. It's a very bewildering avatar, as we see, that can bewilder anyone. Therefore, one has to be completely rooted in the divine energy and surrendered to the Lord to be not bewildered by the Maya of the very same Lord. And when he is thus established in the divine nature and totally surrendered, then one can holistically serve the whole tree of life, and thereby everyone is served. Whereas if one is caught in selfishness, then that only results in nothing happening usefully. So this is the essence of this chapter. And with this, Shuka Brahmarshi concludes this chapter. And now we will go on to see, because of being deprived of the nectar, what do the demons do and what ensues after that will continue in the next chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.